Hi, welcome back. It's me, Ed. Today we are going to be talking about wire. If you don't learn anything today, well, I don't know why you're watching this video because you already know everything, right? Maybe you're just out there to prove me wrong on something. That's fine too. If you want to disagree or argue anything that I talk about in this video, put it in the comments. Okay, so wire for car audio, there's going to be two main types. One is going to be called CCA, copper clad aluminum. This right here. It's basically aluminum with a copper cladding on the outside. Another type is called OFC, oxygen free copper. Now this is for both power and speaker wires. There's also oxygen-free copper that is tinned. So you don't see the copper color, it looks silver, but it is copper. If you gotta choose between CCA and OFC, oxygen-free copper or copper clad, you wanna go oxygen-free copper. There's less resistance in this wire. The problem you got with CCA is because there's more resistance in the wire, you may end up actually having to go with a thicker wire, and you're not really saving any money at that point if you have to go with a, let's say, a 2 gauge instead of a 4 gauge wire for your power. Now, oxygen free copper does cost more, but there is some cheaper options for power. Popular option is actually using welding cable for your power wire. And the downside with using welding cable is that's not as flexible. But it's pretty flexible. You can go wherever you need to go to in the car with this stuff. Now when you get to a thicker gauge, like let's say, I don't know, a 0 gauge or something, it might make more sense to go with car audio type of wire. The difference between audio wire and welding wire is how many strands are in there. The more strands you have, more flexible the wire can be. So let's talk about pure oxygen-free copper versus tinned oxygen-free copper. Tinned oxygen-free copper can be beneficial because the ends are coated and copper corrodes. So that coating on top of the wire helps prevent some corrosion from happening. That said, you shouldn't have any issues as long as you properly terminate these and seal them up and use shrink wrap and all that kind of stuff. Here's an example of some speaker wire. This is oxygen-free copper. This is tinned oxygen-free copper. If you can tell, one is silver and one is copper color. Now, one of the biggest things I found is depending where you get the wire from, not all wire is created equal. I'm going to show you an example. This is Walmart wire. This is welding cable wire. These are both claimed to be 8 gauge wire. You see how much thicker that is? Yeah, one of them is not a true 8 gauge wire. And it's, of course, the Walmart wire right here is not a true 8 gauge wire. So just because something says it's copper or says it's 8 gauge or 4 gauge or whatever size, do not believe it. Look at the reviews, look at people who've actually checked the wire and compared it to true size wire. I'm going to show you another example. This is going to be speaker wire and is 16 gauge. Both of them were 16 gauge. This one is from Amazon, and this one, NVX wire, I believe it came from Sonic. You see the difference in the size? They both claim to be 16 gauge, but obviously one is a lot thicker than the other. So I started this project thinking that wire is wire, but as you can see, it is not the case. I hate to say it, but you get what you pay for when you get wire. If you're gonna go with the cheap shit, I guess get a couple gauges bigger than what you actually need. If you're gonna go with the good stuff, then you can get the actual proper gauge. When you look at the charts to help determine what size gauge wire you need for your power, for your speakers, etc., the gauge wire that they're giving you, they're telling you what oxygen-free copper gauge wire to get, not CCA, 95% of the time. Sometimes if you look online, it will say just copper wire, but it's not true copper wire, it's copper tinned wire. So you want to be careful with that. You really want to get one that says oxygen-free copper, or it could say pure oxygen copper. Here's an example. Now this is 14 gauge. See, pure copper oxygen-free stranded wire. So wire recommendations, what I'm doing on my car is the speaker wires are NVX. Except for my subwoofer, which is going to be whatever brand this is, Max Bright. And that seems to be a true gauge wire. For my power wire, I'm just using welding cable. Trust me, I am all for going cheap, but at the same time, if you're going to do it, might as well do it proper, not have any issues. While we're talking about wire, quick little tip. When you're doing your audio install and you got a bunch of wires that are the same color, mark them. These label makers are great. I use it for everything. Even my distribution blocks, I'll mark them. Power, ground, you know. So that way if you ever got to work on your car again or do any modifications, you know exactly what everything is. Not too big of a deal if you're just running an amp going to one subwoofer, but if you start running an amp to your mids and stuff like that, having wires labeled will definitely make your life easier next time you gotta go and change something up on your stereo. That's all I got for today. Thank you for watching. Aloha. Peace out.
Peace out. Catch you in the next one.
Catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
We're done.
Okay, we're done.